Disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, just a guy who's gotten lucky investing before. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and I'm just as good at losing money as I can make it. None of what you're about to see is financial advice. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about a new stock today, and that is Liberty Energy. Liberty Energy is a fracking company. 76% of their revenue is from fracking services, whether it's setting up frack equipment for other companies or fracking their own mines. Majority of their profit comes from this business model. Now, most of that money in my research, they don't dive in past the 76%. Seems to be, to me, it's setting up, finishing fracking equipment installs. Now, their previous CEO, Chris A. Wright, has left the company to go work at the White House to be the head of Department of Energy in the new incoming administration. The new CEO for Liberty Energy is the previous president of the company for the last 9 years. So they lost their CEO because he got a promotion in the government, and their current CEO has been kind of working under him for the last 9 years. Not really a huge change in the upper management of the company. Just a fair warning there. Now, their developments for this company on the horizon. A few things to note. Tariffs on oil from Canada and Mexico. It's going to make drilling outside of the U.S. less profitable for oil providers within the U.S., which will be good for companies like Liberty Energy that are set up to frack and have most of their fracking business in the 48 states, or the 50 states for that matter, but in the 48 states. The incoming president has made it no secret that he wants to drill, baby, drill. He wants to lift regulations on all things fracking. Nothing has been done yet as far as changing fracking regulations. However, if you've been to a gas station recently, you will notice that the price of gas has gone up. At least it has for me in the last 2 weeks since tariffs on oil have taken effect. I think this could cause a huge push in the states to get fracking in the states, which would be great for Liberty. Now, just a side note, I didn't put this in green or red. Liberty's got this new LPI remote power, where they take truckloads of charged lithium batteries and plug them directly into a power grid during a power outage or a power grid failure. If in the case of like a natural disaster. So it might not work, but this will be sold to local state governments, potentially federal governments. So does it really need to work well? If you've ever worked in the government, you know that the government likes to buy a lot of garbage. Just a thought. Could be a huge revenue stream for this company. Tariffs on steel. Liberty does use a lot of foreign steels in their manufacturing of fracking equipment. That is going to cut into their profits when it comes to manufacturing their goods for fracking. The biggest competition to this company, three biggest companies: Halliburton, Schlumberger, and Patterson-UTI. Halliburton, thing to note is they're trading at a 9.5 price to earnings. They have not really grown revenue. I would not consider them a growth company. And they haven't really grown any revenue in the last 15 years. They have heavily expanded to outside of the U.S. They're heavily fracking outside of the U.S. and they're going to be affected by these tariffs. Schlumberg, same thing. Trading at a 10.8 price to earnings. Again, best revenue, $12.6 billion in a quarter in 2014, and their most recent report was $9.2 billion in quarter 4 2024. Not much growth for a PE ratio of 10.8. Now on the bottom here, I have the Glassdoor rating for what people believe, what people have rated working for these companies. They're all pretty high. If you've ever gone onto Glassdoor, it's, 4.0 is a pretty good company. Of course, Liberty Energy on the far right, 4.1, making it the highest rated one to work for. But that's also something good to look at, is how do employees enjoy working for these companies. Patterson-UTI, currently negative earnings their last couple of earnings calls. Currently trading at 5.79 per share. It might not be a bad buy if you can get it for a right price, as just like Liberty, most of their fracking is done domestically in the U.S. Liberty, 6.0 PE ratio. They just reported earnings 1.43 trailing 12 months earnings per share, making it a 7.99 PE at $11.43. They just recorded $977 million of revenue. Last quarter, they reported $944 million. So it is not a trend downward on the revenue side. They did record pretty low earnings per share, though. Their earnings per share after everything was 4 cents per share, which I think that will return. Earnings per share will go back up, but something to keep in mind of their projected 10 cents per share next earnings call, and sentiment is that it will keep going up. So it's going to be interesting to listen to the earnings call tomorrow morning and listen to how the CEO talks about the future of the company and the outlook. They do have a published outlook here. This is their financial results from the quarter. Thing to note too is so revenue $977 million, net income $20 million, 12 cents fully diluted earnings per share, and then distributed $37 million to shareholders through share repurchases and cash dividends. Now, here, during the quarter ended March 31st, 2025, Liberty purchased and retired 1.5 million shares of common stock at an average cost of $15.50, representing 1% of shares outstanding for $24 million. So they're purchasing shares back and they are paying dividends, 8 cents per dividend. Which are two awesome green flags to buy a company. Total debt for this company, their latest debt report was $533 million. I think they added $20 million to that, so $553 million currently. And now that seems like a lot of debt. However, keep in mind that this company is making $970 million per quarter. And they're profiting $202 million per year. Their assets, so this is another awesome part I like about Liberty. Their assets have increased by $500 million from 2021 and 2022. That's $1 billion over 2 years. They've increased just their assets. 2023, they increased $250 million. Their total current assets are valued at $3.2 billion versus their market cap. So theoretically, if you had $2.9 billion, you could buy this company, liquidate its assets, take all the cash on hand, and you'd profit $300 million on the whole deal. Dividend history, they've steadily been paying dividends. They've been increasing their dividend throughout the history of them paying dividends, and they've had a healthy share buyback program. And with this latest earnings report, they've really killed it with the share buyback as well. So this is how I would play Liberty Energy. This is my plan with Liberty, okay, is I am playing it as it is, as if I'm buying Halliburton in 2001, right? So Halliburton, 2001, they really started dipping all the way through 2001, and you know what? Liberty Energy in 2025 could be the same thing. Liberty Energy could keep sinking for the next 6 months. I don't know where the bottom is, okay, on Liberty. I'll tell you that right now. Halliburton is kind of in a similar situation to Liberty right now. They really started ramping up their investing into assets, ramping up their assets, ramping up their company cash flow. And come 2003, they just started letting profits roll in. Now, Liberty Energy is on a dip. You know, they've slid. I mean, January 2025, they were trading at $23, and now they're all the way down to $11. Now, the reason I think it's going to bounce, the reason I believe it's going to bounce and it's going to profit amazingly for all of us is I will show you this video. This is
summarize what you heard about oil prices. What was the discussion on prices, and what concerns did you hear from the industry?
There was really no discussion on price. Price is set by supply and demand. There's nothing we could say in that room that would change that one iota.
Why can't you
Oh
stay
my gosh,
organized?
man.
I've experienced this myself, and it's called chronic impulse control, where you
and so it wasn't really a topic of discussion. But we did talk a lot about permitting, because one of the things that this industry has faced is the onslaught of regulation that was really had one goal in mind: try to drive their business out of business. And story after story that Chris and I hear of people where the permitting process takes longer than the actual build process on critical infrastructure in our country. And this is unacceptable, because right now we're in an AI arms race against China.
Okay, so he talks about permitting. It takes longer to permit than it does to build infrastructure in oil, energy. So if Liberty Energy's business if they're raking in most of their profits from building infrastructure, and they have for the last 4 years had this huge issue with getting permits for all of their building equipment. If you take some of those regulations away and streamline some of those regulations, I think you're going to see Liberty is going to be able to be more productive with their assets. They're going to be able to take on more contracts with different fracking companies, and they could be looking at what did I say? $4 billion a year, I think this company makes. I mean, they could be looking at $12 billion, $15 billion, $20 billion in revenue per year in the next 2 or 3 years. And that just comes with a policy change. The other thing, too, is their assets. So in my conclusion, all things considered, Liberty is a compelling asset play, potential to evolve into a growth play, low PE ratio, one of the lowest PE ratios of the fracking company. It is, I mean, I what did I say, 8 PE ratio after their earnings report? I mean, Halliburton's trading at 9.5. It's a super cheap stock for one that has so much upside in the oil industry. The only real question I guess you should ask is, in the broader market, are there better assets to play? I think for sure if you just keep buying the dips and you buy more with each dip, you will return quite a nice return. The other thing to keep in mind is companies like ELF and AMD, they went on super sale with the whole tariff crash, and I mean AMD's trading at like $88. Are there better plays in the market? Probably. Is this a safe play? I mean, with their assets costing more than the market cap of the stock, I would say this is one of the safest plays. But there's also such a huge upside with lifting regulations and the whole lithium batteries on trucks idea they have. What's the real downside is what I want to leave you with on that thought. Thanks for watching. I see my last video had like 40 views on it, and it was only up for a week. If you're watching and you're still here, leave a comment, man. Let me know who you are. I think it's crazy that how many views I got on my last video. I think I only told about 15 of my friends, so there has to be like a good 25 people that are unaccounted for. Leave a comment, man. Anyway, subscribe. Thanks for watching.